Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. How are you today? Ready for some new stories from Ask a Lawyer? Let's go to the first one, about OP's sister, who went no contact with OP after OP started dating her ex. But she is now furious that OP didn't inform her that they are expecting a baby. Listen to the story, guys, to find out all the details, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I've been with my girlfriend, Elle, for 5 years. I have a younger half-sister, Kay, and we were never that close. Kay and I have the same dad, but different moms, so growing up, we split our time between households. We didn't have much contact after I graduated high school and went to college across the country. A few years later, Kay came out as lesbian and was dating another girl. I was supportive of her, but because we weren't close, she didn't share any other info, and we were out of contact for months. I learned from my dad 4 months later that they broke up, and Kate was really depressed. Apparently, her ex realized she wasn't as attracted to women as she thought, so that ended things. Well, as it turns out, Elle was her ex. Neither of us knew at the time when we started dating, which was maybe a year after I heard they broke up. She had recently moved to my city, and we hit it off. Fast forward over a year later, Elle and I are living together, decided to fly home for the first time in years so Elle could meet my dad. Kay was there too, and crap hit the fan fast. After we all realized who the other was, she demanded we break up, which obviously wasn't going to happen. She was hurt because Elle was her first love, and it was like I betrayed her. We didn't talk after that. She said she never wanted to speak to me again. After almost a year of trying to get in touch a couple times, I gave up and accepted we just weren't going to talk again. So after all these years with no contact, Elle and I have discovered she's pregnant. We're so excited about becoming parents and announced it on Facebook. My dad called me and said Kay wanted to talk to me because she'd asked him for my number. When she called, she sounded like she'd been crying but was also angry. Kay asked how I could just think it was okay to make an announcement like that and not at least give her a heads up first, instead of finding out from our dad's family. A lot of them had shared our post, so that's how she found out. She said I have no idea how much pain this has caused her already, and now to learn we're going to be starting a family. The least I could have done was tell her so she wasn't blindsided by it. Honestly, Kay wasn't even on my mind at all until this point. We hadn't spoken in years. She made it clear she didn't want to talk anymore. Plus, I didn't think she'd still be hung up on this. I apologized for hurting her, but she says the damage is done, and I'm a selfish, inconsiderate a-hole. My dad has talked to me. He says Kay is really sad, and it probably would have been best to have told her first before making an announcement. Elle says this shouldn't make me feel bad, since neither of us have talked to Kay in years, and it would have hurt her regardless if she still has issues with us being together. But I don't know. Was I an a-hole for not telling her first? Kay cut OP out of her life, so why would OP keep her updated on his? I do actually sympathize with Kay a bit, because no doubt the way things worked out with Elle hurt her greatly. But she handled it completely unreasonably, and she continues to be unreasonable. OP's sister is being very self-centered and narcissistic. Not everything is about her. And now let's see if the community agrees with me on the matter. Ronit Sarangi says, "Listen to Elle. She's making a lot of sense. Not the a-hole at all, and congrats. If Kay is still hung up on you two, then she will find reasons to get upset regardless of how considerate you are." Demonic Symphony says, "Not the a-hole. Your girlfriend didn't leave her for you. You didn't steal her girlfriend. It's a wild, crazy thing that happened, but she cut contact. You not being able to give her a heads up is on her." Madison Green says, "Not the a-hole. Y'all went no contact. She didn't want a relationship with you. Not sure why she thought she should get special treatment if she has such emotional hostility towards you." So, about a month and a half ago, my 32 female, husband, 37 male, texted me and told me he didn't know about us. Then called later that night to say he wanted a divorce, that he wasn't happy. The very next day, he went to her, 23 female house. And he's been there pretty much ever since. We have 3 kids, 12 male, 6 female, 1 male. I've been a stay-at-home mom the last year and a half to be with our youngest and because of virus. So this has left me scrambling, trying to wean our son, find childcare, and get a job, by myself. My ex is staying over an hour away with her. We have pretty much no savings, and he's still paying the bills here until I can find a job in childcare. Now, I've had calls back about jobs, but every daycare I've contacted is full. All of them. not one accepting 1-year-olds. My ex is spending hundreds on this girl. He takes her out to eat, buys her things, they go to bars. Also, let me say, a month before he told me he was leaving us, we were looking at houses, planning a move. The kids and I were blindsided. We didn't fight a lot. He works third shift, so the most we argued about was that he didn't spend enough time with the kids. But we didn't have a bad marriage. I cooked, cleaned, took care of all childcare and household duties. I paid bills. He worked and slept. Anyway, I've been telling him not to spend our money on her. I need to be able to afford to get my son into daycare if I'm going to get a job. But now all he says is that it's his money and I can get a job, which I'm trying, and he's no help. I can't do anything without someone to watch my 1-year-old. But I've told him that it's our money until those papers are signed or until I can get a job. He's calling me petty, jealous, a-hole, but I think he's the one being unreasonable. He practically abandoned our children, only sees them because I lost it, because our children are having breakdowns and don't understand why he doesn't want to be with us. And was irate I put them in therapy. Anyway, am I the a-hole for telling my ex that he can't spend our money on his new girlfriend until we're divorced or I have a job? Or am I just an entitled jerk? The only one who's in the wrong here is OP's soon-to-be ex. The reason X doesn't want OP to apply for assistance is because then he's 100% on the hook for child support. As in, he'll now have a case with child support enforcement, and if he doesn't pay, they'll take support out of his paycheck. OP needs to go see an attorney and start the proceedings. If OP suspected an affair and have some sort of evidence, she needs to use it against him. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Kernowick 1066 says, "Not the a-hole. Get bank statements from when the affair may have started. Lawyer up and get the best deal you can. It sounds like you're the one who'll be doing the majority of the childcare while he's off with her. You're doing the right thing. He clearly doesn't respect you or your feelings, so there's no call for you to respect him or his. Put yourself and the children first. Best of luck. You sound very capable. You've got this." Dry Lolly says, "Not the a-hole. Regardless of if he's the only one working, he has 3 children, so it will never just be his money. If you were divorced, he would be paying tons of child support, and seeing as you were a stay-at-home mom relying on his income, you would be getting some big chunks of alimony as well. I bet you $1 million he's going to draw the divorce out as long as possible, so he can claim the money as his and avoid paying mandatory child support, alimony. Record every interaction with him, get copies of his pay stubs, household bills, etc. Hit that mother trucker where it hurts, because it's very obvious that he doesn't give a crap about you or your kids." Imne says, "Not the a-hole. I would be petty enough to reach out to the girlfriend and say I hope you realize that when he's paying for fancy dinners for you, his 3 children are eating out of food banks because he's not helping care for them. She's human, and 90% of people would be pissed off if their boyfriend abandoned their kids and were letting them suffer. He's probably telling her he's the best dad ever while actively hurting his children." Edit. I'm doing some more shopping for lawyers, and I'm going to look into other resources. I'm not going to listen to my ex anymore. I'm going to apply for low-rent housing and food stamps until I can get on my feet. He told me not to. Edit for anyone that still cares. I contacted a lawyer and found out that I should still be okay, even without a job for a while, with what he will have to pay in child support and spousal support, whenever that gets established. Lawyer said paperwork will be ready early this next week. We got our stimulus. He took less than half, but was supposed to use the money to find a place and get things for the kids for his place, and went and blew $1,000 in 24 hours on with her. Not a cent on our children. I used $1,000 of my stimulus money to pay for the divorce that he asked for. I can't stand how selfish he is. I'm just disgusted. I knew I had to file so I could make sure I could take care of my kids. He doesn't seem to care about them at all. I'm currently 40 and have 2 older siblings. My dad died about 7 years ago. My mom is in her late 60s. Mom would occasionally refer to how marriage was a storybook marriage, the Facebook version of a happy life. Parents were married at 18 and together for almost 45 years. Mom was understandably devastated when he passed. He'd been having some major health problems for years, so my siblings and I all knew it was coming. She is very much into avoiding any sort of conflict and sugarcoating her world. So I think it did really blindside her when he finally died. Similar to how she can't even understand that her current health problems will likely get the best of her sooner rather than later. Though I've been surprised before. I didn't think she'd make it a year after Dad died. When my dad died, my mom kinda shut down. She had a small income and burned through about $500,000 in life insurance over the next 3 or 4 years. My sister and I are advising her to sell her house and downsize, but she just couldn't do it. Eventually, the stress got to her, and she had a heart attack. My wife and I dropped everything and drove halfway across the country for a month to see her and help out. While we were there, my wife and I went by the house to see what she would need to get rid of. She had done an estate sale which had gotten rid of almost all of the furniture, but the 3-car garage was pretty much entirely full of boxes. It took us over a week in 100-degree heat, but we went through every single box in that garage to find and save any important stuff. One of the things we did find was a journal my dad had written in. He had purchased it when I was 14 and wrote in it very occasionally over the span of about 3 years. There are 14 entries in the journal over that span. It's written in such a way that he never expected anybody else to ever read it. It's really negative. He obviously treated this as some sort of a catharsis, as a low point in his life. He writes about how awful his life is, how his wife is stupid and useless and spends way too much money, how his kids have no respect for him, how he can't do anything because they take all his money. While I always was positive on my father, I actually gained a ridiculous amount of respect for him reading that journal. I think this journal would destroy my mom. My wife and I spoke about it after we both read it and decided not to tell her about the journal. We took it back home with us after we left. My mom was able to short sell the house and buy a small house next to my sister. As her health is getting worse, she's now sold that house and moved in with my sister. She spent a large chunk of the past year in the hospital or in rehab. She has a lot of physical health problems, including a kidney cancer that is complicating things. So I ask you this. Am I the a-hole for never telling my mother about my father's secret journal? In my opinion, there's no reason, at this point, for OP's mother to ever know those thoughts were in his head. He could have been in the middle of a midlife crisis at that point and just gotten past it. It would seem that might be the case since he didn't continue with the entries. OP should let his mother keep her storybook ending. It does no one any harm to let her believe that. Cackle Hackle says, no a-hole, because if your mom has and still is devastated over your father's death, this would be the nail in the coffin then. Artist Great01 says, she never needs to know any of this, and I'm sorry that you do know, and are now burdened with the secret. He clearly didn't want anyone to know. Also, I might say things or write things down in low moments, but that would be a dreadful, unfair representation of my whole life. So you have a snapshot, but it might be a tiny bit of the whole picture, and maybe the whole picture was not so bad. Don't tell her. Ed Rowland says, part of me wants to say she deserves to know, but at the same time, if it's late in her life and the father is gone, what purpose does it serve to show her anyway? Sure, she'll see reality and the thoughts of her husband, but I don't see the need for that if it'll damage her emotionally over the possibly limited time she has left. It's tough, but I would say not the a-hole. As someone who's dealt with a similar situation, I would say what you're doing is for the best. It was secret to begin with anyway. My 29, husband, 27, is a stay-at-home dad. He majored in biology, then dropped out of medical school after not wanting to waste his time, so he worked in research for a while. But then we decided that I should be the working parent because I'm earning about 6 figures, which is almost triple what he was earning. He has been a stay-at-home dad, but he also took up baking as a hobby when he was dealing with depression during lockdown, so he sort of has a small baking business. He gets like 3 to 6 clients a month, or some months he's too busy with the kids to bake, so he normally uses his money to fund his habits, and gives his sister money sometimes. He gives her like $20 every day, from Chipotle money to Sephora money. Whenever I warn him, he likes it because it's only $20 and it's lunch money. Recently, his sister called him for $200. Apparently her heater turned off, and he asked me to send her the money. He hasn't taken up cake orders in a while because we have 2-year-old triplets and a 4.5-year-old that have all been getting sick one after the other. I told him no, that she needs to learn to take care of herself. He got upset and then told me that he needed money to buy something on Amazon for himself. I told him no, because I knew he was going to use it for his sister. We do have a joint account, but those expenses are for the kids, and I calculated for gas and their activities, so I will know if he uses them for personal use. I'm not going to lie, we're doing pretty well financially, so $200 wouldn't have hurt me, even with 4 kids. But I feel like his sister, 22, is too grown to be asking for money from him every other day. He ended up demanding, with no prior discussion, that he decided on his own that he is going back to work and that I need to start budgeting for childcare. I've tried to have a conversation, and he says that there's nothing I can say to change his mind. He doesn't understand why I have to ask him why he needs money when he rarely asks for it. It is true in some sense that he always uses the money he gets from baking for his personal needs. But I feel like he doesn't take the fact that I paid for all the equipment he was using and all the materials he started with when he was in his practicing phase during virus. But I just don't want to enable his sister and want to help her manage her money better and start adulting. And I usually do give him money anytime he asks. I just felt like it was a waste in this case. I feel like him telling me all of a sudden that he doesn't want to be a stay-at-home dad is kind of blindsiding me. And I feel like he's trying to guilt me just because I don't want to enable his sister's bad habits. But in case I'm missing something, am I the a-hole? Imaginary Being 1949 says, "You're the a-hole. It sounds like you're the one blindsiding and punishing him because it's your money. He clearly sees that this can be a problem, so he's going to make his own money. Either be an adult and have a conversation with him to come up with a compromise, or deal with him going back to work." 6242 says, "You're the a-hole. I understand not wanting to help his sister, but the fact that the household brings in 6 figures and he doesn't even have $200 personal money is a red flag. Decide on childcare. It's better for him to have his own money." Not a Bad Egg says, "You're the a-hole. This isn't about his sister. This is about you having complete financial control. You have an arrangement where he is a stay-at-home dad, and you're the main breadwinner. That in itself is fine. However, if he has something he really wants to do, like help his sister, and you block him from doing that, that will build resentment. You have joint finances, and by your own admission, this money wouldn't impact you. So you denying him this is you expressing that your opinion is worth more than his. You're meant to be partners. He's not blindsiding you. You're denying him since it's your money and not his. It's not a surprise that he would seek more financial freedom.